Hey, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? FAQ&A Thursdays. We are live on Facebook right now. Super pumped up. We have a lot of great stuff to cover today. Today, we are going to be going over workflows, everything that has to do with workflows. So I titled this Workflows 101 because we won't necessarily be getting into every single action, every single trigger, because that could take a really long time to get into, and that's more of a full webinar experience. But today we are going to be going over the beginning processes of workflows, where you can apply them, how you can think about writing out your workflows. So if you are new to Dubsado, new to the community, new to getting the system implemented with your business, this will be a great idea for you, and a great tool for you to look and see how to set up your workflows before you actually begin putting things into Dubsado. So this is going to be kind of a beginner's course on it. So if you're super advanced in workflows, this might not make your workflows better necessarily, but this is for people who are in that first beginning phase of planning out their workflows. So before we actually jump into Dubsado and actually look at workflows, the first thing I want to talk about is how important writing out your process is before you actually get started building things within the system. So within Dubsado, whenever you're building your workflows, your workflow essentially is going to be your process that you have for your business. And this can get people a little bit caught up because everyone thinks that there should be a natural flow of things for everybody, and it should be the same type of flow. But it's important to understand that your workflows are extremely unique to your business. For example, there are some businesses that might not need proposals. There are some businesses that might not need questionnaires. Maybe in your business, you like to call the clients. So every single piece of the workflow should be tailored towards your business and how you want your business to flow and function. I've talked to a lot of people whose workflows, they don't want to do anything. They want it to be 100% automated. They want to be able to just push start, and then it just sends everything out and the workflow does all the work. Then I've also talked with other people who they want to have their hands on everything. So they still want a workflow, but they want it to be 100% manual. They want to be able to send out emails, and they just need to get reminded when it's time to do something. So it's important before you even start building in Dubsado, before you even start entering forms, before you start doing anything in there, it's important to know what your process is. Are you someone who wants everything automated? Are you somebody who wants things to be 100% manual? Do you need contracts? Are you sending out thank you emails? These are all very important tools and things that you'll need to address before you start getting into Dubsado and building. So when we are talking about workflows, it's important to understand that before we do anything, you have to know your process and then write it out. So when it comes to writing out your process, there's a couple different things you can do. Some people use sticky notes. Some people use just a pen and paper to write it out. Some people, you have these crazy elaborate flow charts. So you have to know, how you want to write it out, look at it, analyze it. And once you have your process written out, then you can go in and you can start seeing, okay, I need to have a contract here. I need to have a thank you email here. And you can start seeing the content that you're going to need in Dubsado. So let's jump in and we'll talk about writing out your process and where you can think from the mindset of whenever you're writing out your workflows. So we'll jump into the system here and we'll pop over here. And what I want to talk about first is the lead capture form. So within Dubsado, and this isn't for everybody, remember, everyone's business flows different ways. So this might not be for you, but typically most people, from what I've seen, the lead capture form, which is the form that you can embed on your website, and it's kind of like a contact me form. This is the form that is going to get people into the system. And this is the only form that we offer that allows for workflows to start from this form once they complete it. So you're not able to start a workflow from a proposal or from a contract or anything like that. The lead capture form is the only form that can dictate a workflow to begin from its completion. So when we're talking about mapping out workflows, we want to think about it in the lane of this form. If someone comes to my website, they fill out this form, I want a workflow to start. If someone comes to this page because I send a direct link to this form and they choose this answer, I want this workflow to start. That's how you can start to think about building your workflows and writing those out. So in this form, and we'll talk about the lead capture here, there's two ways that you can start a workflow from the very beginning. So the first way is going to be more of the generic default way, and it's basically whenever someone fills this out, they get the same workflow. And so if we go to the settings menu, which is up here at the top, and scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see where it says default workflow. And what this means is that anyone who fills out this lead capture form, if you have a default workflow in here, a workflow template, then that workflow is going to take off for everybody. So no matter who fills it out, no matter what they're interested in, it doesn't matter what type of service or what lane they want to go down, everyone's going to get the exact same workflow. So that might be your business. It might not matter what service they're interested in. It might just be, I just need everyone to get the exact same thing. It's the same process for everybody. In that case, the default workflow area is where you're going to place that at. The next thing when we're talking about kind of the mindset of mapping out your workflows is underneath forms here, we have what's called the workflow element. And what this will do is it will actually be an answer that someone can select on the actual form. So down here at the bottom, so here's the basic contact information, but down here at the bottom, it'll say what service are you interested in. And when I open this up here, what this does is based off of an answer that they choose, a certain workflow will start. So this gives you a little bit more variety on which way you want the client to go down based off of, okay, they select this, I want them to get this set of forms and emails. If they select this, I want them to get a different set of forms and emails. So in this case, let's just say I'm a photographer and I have portraits, wedding, sporting events, and newborn. So I do a lot of different types of photography. So if someone selects wedding, I don't want to just have some generic email that goes out. You might want to have something that's more geared towards weddings. Same thing if you're sending a questionnaire or a proposal or a contract. If you want it to that content to be more geared towards whatever service they're interested in, now we're talking about creating different types of emails, different types of forms, because all in all, you want the right sequence to start that has the right set of content in it. So when we're thinking about mapping things out, really take into consideration this part of the lead capture form. If you have different types of service, then when you're talking about mapping it out, you're going to have 4 different workflows. You would have a portraits workflow, a wedding workflow, a sporting events, and a newborn. And you can do 2 options, 7 options. You can have all different types of options, but this is how you'll write out your workflows, is from this perspective. So take that into consideration whenever you are first getting into Dubsado, is that lead capture form. Since it's the first point of contact, your workflows will branch out from there. So that's the first piece of information that's super important, is the mapping out process. Now let's take it a step further and let's assume that you have your process written out. You know exactly what you want. You might be using the workflow element where it branches out. You might be using the default workflow. But let's say you have everything mapped out, it's written out on paper, sticky notes, flowcharts, however you do it. The next thing that you're going to do is, once you have your process written out, is you're going to highlight all of the content that you're going to need in these workflows. Our workflows in Dubsado, if you've built any already, for those of you who are watching that already have your workflow set up, you can testify to this, that workflows are very content dependent. And by that, I mean, whenever you're wanting to send a form or send an email, send a contract, all of that, it's going to look at what content you already have in Dubsado. So you'll need to make sure that before you even go in and start building your workflows, that you have your content in the system next. So that's the next piece that we're going to talk about, is once you have your workflows written out, you can circle or highlight the content that needs to get built into the system. So when we're talking content, there's normally 3 areas, and since this is just kind of a 101 class, I won't go into super detail about all the different things you can do with workflows, but just from a basic level, there's 3 things that you'll really need to make sure that you have whenever you're setting up your workflows. and that's all going to be in the templates area. Templates are going to be your content. It's the things that you create in Dubsado. So underneath templates, the forms, canned emails, and packages, if you're taking notes, those three things are going to be massive to get done before you even start building your workflows. Because if you have all your forms together, if you have all your canned emails together and all of your packages together, then you'll have all your content in front of you before you start building. So you can it's basically just plugging it in to your process. So that's kind of why content is important, because you don't want to start building your workflows and then realize, dang, I have to go back and I have to make another contract, or now I have to go create my questionnaires. Now I need to go do my canned emails, and then the efficiency is just back and forth and it's all over the place. So if you do all of your content first, then when you come into your workflows, you'll have all your content there ready to put together. So let's talk about these three things here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is packages. So packages, if you aren't familiar with it, is going to be anything that has a price point in Dubsado. So it doesn't matter if it's a collection of items. So if you have multiple line items that make up a package, you can build those. If you have a la carte items, add-ons, anything that has a price point to it, you can build it into the packages. So that way you can use it when you're making invoices, when you're creating your proposals. You want to make sure that you get your packages done first. That's going to be your services, the goods that you offer, anything like that can be built in packages. The next thing that I want to talk about is the forms. So within Dubsado, when we're talking workflows, if you're saying that you want to send out an attachment, if you're like, whether that's a contract, a questionnaire, a proposal, anything like that, it needs to be built first. So we don't want to go into the workflow and then say, I want to send a form out and then have to go back to the questionnaires and build it. And because then you'll be going back and forth. So it's important whenever you have your process written out, you're circling everything that you're going to need to send out to the client. So you might not have a proposal. You might have a couple questionnaires that they need to fill out and a contract, or maybe there is a proposal and a contract, no questionnaire. So that's why workflows are going to be tailored towards your business and how you function as a business owner. So once you have your content circled and you might have a couple questionnaires, a proposal, you have everything mapped out of what you need. Now you can come in and build it here. So packages, forms are super important to have completed before we start. And then the last thing is going to be the canned emails. And the canned emails, from what I've seen doing the one-on-one calls, is something that really, really gets overlooked. Canned emails are going to be any templates that you need to send out to your client email-wise. So we're talking thank you emails, welcome emails. If you have like a receipt email that you want to send out to somebody, you might have a email that's a follow-up email or a consultation email. We're not a great fit email. Anything that you find yourself sending to clients multiple times, that is going to be a canned email that you can create here. So like I said, it's super important to make sure that your canned emails are in here first, because whenever we go into the workflows, which we'll do in a second, you'll see that basically you're just going to be selecting from this list. You do have the ability to type in your own emails into the workflow, but you won't be able to use them later because they don't get saved as canned emails. So it's just best practice to come in here, build out a list of all the canned emails. I've seen people who have 4 or 5 pages of canned emails, which is totally fine, because when people start coming into Dubsado, when you start getting clients, the last thing that you want to do is come into canned emails and have to type up templates when you're getting a lot of inquiries coming in. So it's better just to have all your content prepared ahead of time. So that way, once your lead capture is live and you start getting those inquiries, you can just come in, select what canned emails you want in your workflow, or if it's a follow-up you just need to send manually, you already have your content prepared ahead of time, and it saves you a lot more time once clients start coming in and you don't have to scramble. So canned emails is a huge thing. If you are taking notes, just a quick tip: if you have any forms that you're sending to the client, write an email for it. So if you have a questionnaire that needs to get sent out, write an email that goes with it. If you have a proposal that you're sending out, write an email that goes with it. Contracts, anything like that. Because in the workflow, which we'll take a look at here in a second, whenever you're sending out a contract or sending out a form, you're then going to select what email accompanies that form. So whenever you're creating this content, just think to yourself, if it's a form, write an email for it. It doesn't matter what type of form it is. If it's a sub agreement, just write an email for it. It's better to have it here in the archives than have to get it later and type it up later when you're going to be busy doing your business and trying to manage your clients. So just write an email for any form that you have in the system. That way, just in case you need it, it's there. Okay, so now we've talked packages, forms, canned emails, all of the content that you'll need in the system first. Now we can start addressing actually building workflows. So let's kind of rewind back and review what we've gone through here. First step is writing out your process. And your process is going to really stream from that lead capture form of how do I want my clients to be able to get into the system and start getting information. Once they're in there, you want the right canned emails, the right forms, the right content to get sent out. So the second step is going to be build all of your content. Now we can start talking about actually putting workflows together. And when we're talking workflows, really all workflows is that process that you have written out mixed with the content that you've created. You're just combining those two things, and that is really your workflow. So if you have your process written out but no content, then you can't really develop a good workflow. You might have a ton of content, but if you don't have structure and your process written out, then you still won't be able to build a workflow because you won't know what order you want things to go out in. So as long as you have your process written, your content created, then the workflow is going to be a lot easier to build, and it's not going to be as overwhelming and stressful and I need to get this done and I don't know where this is supposed to go. So let's jump in and we'll talk about actually building workflows. So actually, let me jump over here. I'm just going to click add new workflow and we'll just start fresh. So whenever you're building your workflow, it's basically going to be action by action written out step by step. So our workflows at the moment don't branch out like a flow chart normally would. These are going to be more linear. So one happens, then the next thing goes, then the next thing goes. And there's different triggers you can have to control when those actions go out. But as far as the actual building, it's going to be more linear, just straight down the line. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to talk about how to build actions within workflows. So when you click add action right here, there's going to be 3 parts to building an action. You're going to have what it is that you're actually doing, your action. You're going to have the trigger, so what's making it send, and then the content that's going out in that action. So that's how you're, on a very basic level, that's how workflows and every single action is put together, is what you're doing, when it's going to go out, or the trigger, and then the content that's going out. So that's how we're going to piece this together. So the very first thing you're going to do is decide what it is that you want to do for this action. And when you click this drop down, now you're getting a huge list of these are all the different things that the workflow can do for you. And when we're talking about actions, I just want to highlight this portion of it, that there's automated things you can do in the workflow, and then there's also manual things you can do. So you don't have to feel like the workflow has to be 100% automated. Most of the things are going to be completely automated, but you can also create to-dos for yourself. And this is if you need to do something that's outside of the realm of I need to send this email or send a contract, or it's that communication with the client. The to-dos are going to be more for in-house, I need to get this done before the workflow moves on. So don't feel like you're restricted to just clicking go on the workflow and it just runs and you have no control over it. You can add to-dos, or you can add pauses in the workflow that will give you a break in the action while you go do something. And then whenever you're ready for the workflow to continue, you can either unpause the workflow, you can mark to-dos as complete, and it will keep moving through the workflow. So, because some people might need to call clients, some people might need to review forms before they continue, or they need to check on availability, or they need to do a lot of different things. And so that creating a to-do in the workflow is going to give you more of a manual aspect where you need to go get something complete and mark it off before it continues down that workflow and keeps moving through the automated portion of it. So the first thing you'll do is select what it is that you want to do. So in this case, let's just say we want to send an email to a client. So I'll click send email. Now we've chosen our action. The next thing we're going to do is choose when we want this email to go out. So what's going to trigger this email? So this is the second part of putting together an action. From here, we can select what's going to make this email send. So in the when section, there's all these different triggers that you can choose from that will activate this email and send it out to the client. So whether that's going to be before the job starts, after the job's over, once a certain form gets completed or an invoice gets paid, a contract gets signed. So when you're piecing together your workflow, you want to be as detailed as possible. Do I only want this to happen after the invoice is paid, or do I only want this to happen once they've signed their contract? The more specific you can be on the triggers, the more efficiently your workflow is going to run. The kind of, I will say, the last resort trigger that I always encourage people to use is the after all previous actions are complete. The reason why is because this trigger will just look at everything that's above it, and if that's all done, it goes. So if 2 emails have sent, but you're wanting it to wait, that third action to wait, and you have after all previous actions are complete, it's just going to send it automatically. So this is kind of a last resort when you're building your workflow. If you can be more detailed of, I want it to be 7 days before the job starts or a week after the project's over, I want this to go out. Be very, very detailed with your triggers so that you know nothing will mistakenly send. You'll know that everything is going to send when you have dictated it to go out. And then if nothing else fits, then you can use after all previous actions are complete. That'll be kind of the last resort if nothing else here works. So once you've decided when, and let's just say for our example here, I want to send an email after the contract has been signed, and we'll just say 7 days after the contract has been signed. So you can really determine when this is going to go out, whether that's based off of hours, days, weeks, years. You can determine the time. So let's just say 7 days after the contract is signed, I want to push something out. So we have that done. Now the third step that we have, so we have action, trigger, now content. So now we're going to select what email we want to send out with all of this. So we've got our parameters, but what's getting sent? This is where content comes into play. So when it says, what email do you want to send? And I click this drop down, this is a list of all the canned emails I have saved. If I was sending a form, it would give me a list of all the forms I have created. So now you can see why content is so important to get done beforehand, because if you have to come in here and type up all the emails, which you wouldn't be able to save unless you copied and pasted into the canned emails, in which case you might as well write a canned email. It helps so much to have your content just right here in a list. One thing that I've seen people do, if you're doing the lead capture with all the different types of service, just put the type of service before the title of the email. So like wedding, inquiry, portraits, inquiry, sporting events, inquiry. So that way, because this is all going to be alphabetized. So however you want to title your emails so that they're really easy to find when you're plugging these in, set up the title of your emails, which the client can't see. The client can only see the subject line. So title your emails however it's going to be easiest for you to find them really quickly. Just a quick pro tip, I've seen some people organize their canned emails so specifically, and it's beautiful. It's so genius because when you're building your workflows, the faster you can find your emails, or if you need to send a follow-up and you know exactly what it's titled or where it would be at, the easier it will be to get there. So title your emails based off of alphabetical order in a way that makes sense to you. So let's just say 7 days after the contract is signed, I want to send a welcome email to the client. I already have my welcome email sent or set up, so I don't have to go in and type it. But like I said here, with the workflow, you do have the ability to write in your own emails there and save those just for this workflow. So you won't be able to use these later unless you copy this text and then create a canned email and paste it in there. So like I said, you might as well just make a canned email if you want to use this later. So here's the email body. I already have it typed up, and then I can go through here and then click apply, and boom, I have my action set up. So I want to send an email. This is the title of it. 7 days after the contract has been signed by the client. So when we're putting together our actions, that's going to be kind of the overall structure. You're going to choose what you want to do, when it goes out, and what content's being sent. And if you have your content already prepared ahead of time, you can see how quickly you can just move through here and say, boom, I want to send an email. This is the trigger when it's going to go out, and then this is the content that's getting sent and it's already created. So that's going to really help put your workflows together a little bit more quickly, is kind of doing all that back end work first, and then it'll be a lot more smooth whenever you're putting together your workflows. So that's just kind of a basic rundown on how to set up an action, kind of just a quick 3-step process there. So now that we have all of that covered, I kind of want to sum all of this up so that it's going to make sense how this works. And I think my screen looks like it's showing that it's black, but hopefully it's still running okay. So to sum all of this up, what you're going to do with your workflows is you're going to think about it from the lead capture standpoint. Okay, so lead capture is going to be your first starting point. From there, you're going to think about how you want your workflows to branch off. Okay, so lead capture, how you want your workflows to branch off, and then that means what content you're going to need. So that's going to be, this is kind of reverse engineering it. So the content is going to be that first thing, and the content is based off of your process. So I'll take it a step further. So lead capture, which way you want those workflows to go, which is going to be based off of your content, which is also based off of your process. So if you're struggling with workflows, think to yourself, do I know my process backwards and forwards right now? Do I have it written out of exactly how I want it to go out, what content I need to send out? If you don't have that part established, then you might want to think about, okay, well, if I don't know my process, I need to create it. I need to think, how do I want my business to flow? Do I want it more automated? Do I want it manual? Do I want my clients filling out proposals? Maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to do a questionnaire. You have to think about what it is that you want to do and what information you need to get to your client and the process that you have. If you do have your process set up and you have it written out, now you can go through, circle all the content. I need this email, I need this contract. You can start circling your content. Once that's done, build your content. Once you have your content together, now we can build our workflows. Then you can take those workflows, assign those to the proper answers in the lead capture, put your lead capture, let it go live. So that's really a great progression to think about whenever you're building out your workflows and mapping those out, is kind of that flow of the process. So hopefully this was great for you guys. I think that a lot of people, when I'm on calls with people, this is kind of where they're at. So I really wanted to do a FAQ&A that's solely on workflow 101 basics, how you can write them out, where to start with workflows. And really, to be honest with you, this is a great way, if you're just getting into Dubsado, how you should think about it. Whenever you're first getting started in Dubsado, you might have just signed up for a trial, or you might be brand new to the system. Take a moment, think about, what's my process with my client? Then you'll figure that out. And then you can start putting in your forms, canned emails, and all of that, because the workflow is really what you're working towards, and then getting those onto your lead capture to go live. And then you can start collecting your clients. That way, when clients do start rolling in, you have everything set up on the back end. You have all your content, you have your workflow set up, all your structure is there in place, so that once clients come in, you're not scrambling, needing to do things manually and creating things on the fly for people. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you do have questions about workflow setups and just kind of basics and how to map things out, write them in the comments. You can book a call with me or with Sam. She's also a part of our one-on-one account solutions team. I have the link here, which I will also post in the comments too as well. But book a free call with us. We can talk about workflows and how to map those out correctly, and how your process works. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Definitely let us know if you have other questions. But other than that, take care.